This is AUGforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Repay. Repay offers omni-channel integrated payment solutions for Acumatica users. Whether you are making B2B payments or collecting them, Repay is your full-service payments provider. Power up your payments to empower your business and accelerate the AP and AR payment flow through one seamless integration. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Velixo. Velixo is an award-winning provider of Excel-based reporting solutions for Acumatica. With Velixo, you can build financial, project, and other business reports in Excel with live Acumatica data in just a few minutes and get the answers you need. If you know Excel, you can do it. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. Guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Thursday, June 2nd, 2022, and this is episode number 87, Joel Gress, Acumatica Summit 2022 SE. Now, Joel, you've been on here before, so I think we're going to skip your origin story for the sake of time. Got a lot to talk about. But before we talk about this AUG Summit 2022 and the SE portion of it, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you did. I think it was last month in Atlanta. You did a recent user group gathering. You could tell us about that.
Sure thing, Tim. Hey, great to be here again. Thanks for having me. Yeah, back in April, we held an event in Atlanta. It was, let's kick off the user group Southeast all over again. Had been, pretty close to 2 years since we had gathered, and we got together at a hotel and had about 46 people register, around 40 people show up. And it was really a lot of fun to get everybody back together. I think everybody was a little nervous at first. I did a blog post on it. I think you probably read it and some other folks have, kind of laid out how we went through it. And we really made it as an easily approachable event. We talked a little bit about Acumatica 2022 R1. And when I say we talked about it, I just put up a slide and said, hey, what's of interest to you? There's so many features and functions. I made everything in the event about a discussion. And that was an important part of it because everybody in the room was participating. We gave everybody an opportunity in advance of the event to submit questions that they wanted other people in the community to answer. And we gave people sheets that they could write questions on when they arrived. And people were shouting out questions during our discussion time, which was great as well. But having that focal point of what's going on in Acumatica 22 R1 to kind of spark some of the conversation was helpful, very helpful.
I saw your list of, I believe it was 25 questions that you put in that blog post. I'll put a link to that blog post. So those are really good, thought-provoking discussion questions. I like those.
They really are. I especially like the one, what advice do you have for a startup? My response was, don't run out of cash, right?
Not an Acumatica question at all, but stuff
No,
that's very
no.
relevant to people in the room. That's what I like about it. It wasn't like features focused. It was like real, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I thought it was important that we start out and remind everybody, why do you come to these events and who is at these events? So it was really funny, how many people have been in this field or industry, 5 years or more. All hands are up. 10, 15, 20, still hands up in the air. We showed a listing of the logos so everyone could see, here are the companies that are here. I said to everyone in the room, and I met everyone in the room, let me introduce you to someone. And I introduced them to someone at another table. So getting people up and moving around was really important. It made a difference.
You have you're being comfortable. How do I say this? The level of transparency that you are comfortable with is a higher level of transparency, I think, than most people in our industry. You're closer to my level of transparency, and that's why I like talking to you. You said 40 people, 46 signed up. You're not afraid to introduce people, put logos on the screen. To me, I would summarize that as transparency, and that's what I like about your approach to community.
Yeah, well, I think it's important that we keep the focus on the people that are there and understand that they're there because they need something. And the way our economy looks to be going and has been kind of crazy for the last couple of years, people need automation. They need technology. They need to understand how to use it. And the user groups become a resource for those that don't have the luxury of spending, I think, as you put in one of your articles, $200 an hour to learn something, right? Instead, they need to find other resources. And sure, there's the Open University, and there's lots of PDF files that you can read, right, if you choose to do so. But going and talking to someone that says to you, hey, we've got a similar concern, or we hit the same obstacle and here's how we addressed it, and I'll send you a copy of the report, and the other person will enhance it and send it back. That's what community is about. People building on top of one another's achievements and making it better for everyone.
That discussion component was a big part of we've had 2 gatherings now this year in Ohio, smaller, 10 people. I think we had 13 people last time. And that discussion component, same thing. I feel like that was the best part. We can all go online and watch demos. We can all go download PDF files. All of that can be done virtually. What's missing is the in-person discussion. It's the stuff, we were talking about it. And, if I was going to do something online, I would need to do demo data and I would need to prepare a presentation because I know that anyone in the world could see it. If I know I'm just showing it to the people in the room and I can kind of look at them and gauge if I trust them or not, it's different. I could show you maybe my own Acumatica environment, and without you signing an NDA, it's maybe a gray area legally, but I think you're just more comfortable doing that. And even the kind of things you share in the discussion are just to a deeper level when it's just the people in the room. Is that something you found?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, they'll take the time to meet someone in person. They'll make an assessment of them and they'll build a certain level of trust. And then when they start sharing stories and they're sharing them back and forth, it becomes more and more open. And it's a process. I mean, if you've done Acumatica implementations, you go in and do a discovery with a customer and you'll ask them, what color is your car? It's red. No, what color is your car? Well, it's red and it's got some silver. What color is your car? It's red with chrome bumpers, chrome tire, chrome wheels. It's got red and white and black stripe on it, and I've got a sticker on. I mean, it goes on and on and on. You've got to get through those layers. And so what we try and do, or what I tried to do during the user group events, is break that down quickly so that by the time we're an hour or so in, everybody's chatting and we're having to have people take turns to pose a question. Or even to respond to a question. That was the best part. I mean, I was there as a moderator, if you will, and certainly I have some Acumatica knowledge that I'm happy to share. But the users also have lots of knowledge and experience. And so by them talking to one another and sharing what's going on, it becomes more of a community. And I think they get better answers. It's kind of like I can tell my kids all day long to be polite, but if the neighbor says, hey, you should be more polite, they're going to take it to a deeper level.
Sure. That's a good example. What about size? So you had about 40 people in the room or 40 people in the room. And, I've been reading this book on community by a guy named Peter Block. I read his Flawless Consulting book, which I really like. And he's got one on community. And he draws this distinction between small group and large group. And his kind of breaking point was around 20 people. You had twice that at 40 people. Mm-hmm. How did you find the discussion portion? Did you feel like that was manageable with 40 people, or maybe you break into smaller groups next time?
Absolutely manageable. That's one of the reasons it was manageable, is because I had people fill out a form and I had people submit their questions in advance so that we could go through those questions. Otherwise, we'd have a whole bunch of people in the room that wanted to raise their hand and get their question out rather than listen to other folks' questions. So everyone knew their questions were going to get attention because they had been received, and I announced that we were going to go through all of the questions. Okay? And it worked out just fine. And it sparked a lot of other questions that were ad hoc, and everybody was great with that. We probably could have doubled the size and still been fine.
Interesting. So you're up in front with a microphone, you ask the question, and then how do you respond? Do you raise your hand? Do you come up to the front? How do those 40 people respond then to that question?
Well, initially I'd say, does anyone have a response? I have an idea, but I want to hear from you. And I'd say, how about over here, right? And then eventually you'd get some people that would start responding. Once you've got the first few people that broke the ice, everybody was responding. And sure, they'd raise their hand and I'd call on them and they'd speak. I mean, we all go back to the classroom, right? And it worked out well.
Okay.
Everybody got a turn to speak. I mean, even the rules that we had at the beginning, it was, make this enjoyable for others and it'll be enjoyable for you. Make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak.
So it didn't feel like a White House press conference where you had a scripted set of people who were asking questions. It was just more ad hoc, and who has something to say, you raise your hand, you call on them. You didn't feel like there was people talking over each other, or there was too much coming back at you.
There weren't people talking over each other. I can see when it gets to a larger group that it could be a problem. And, as we're moving towards, and we'll probably talk a little bit today about the AUG Summit SE that's coming up in September. We're collaborating with Acumatica to move that discussion online. And so we'll use a chat group within the community forum so that users can be out there posing their questions, and there'll be a set of folks that'll be monitoring that and responding to it. And we'll have some real-time portion of it where we'll go through some of those questions and make everybody aware of it. Okay. So we're kind of moving towards, like you said, it gets a little hard to manage when it gets bigger, and we'll move it into the digital realm. And I think and we'll kind of do a hybrid. We'll bring it, into the live audience as well as the digital realm while we're rolling.
So let's talk Summit, AUG Summit 2022. But before we get there, I'll throw in one last bit on your one. I guess it was 2 months ago now in April. Thanks for inviting me in to do a live broadcast. Another checkbox in the transparency column there for Joel Gress. You allowed a guy like me to jump in and interview two people live from the floor there. I'll put a link to that live broadcast, just giving people flavor of what it was like there at your group in Atlanta.
Yeah, happy to do that. I think it's important that people hear from, our users hear from other users. We also had an opportunity to do an award ceremony during the event. So Killcliff, great company, great product, really big in supporting, the military and ex-military personnel. They give a lot to a series of funds. I think their logo is along the lines of, we've got the back of the people who have our back, right? And I think that's terrific. So Killcliff was there. They had received the Acumatica Retail Commerce Customer of the Year for 2022 award at Summit. They weren't able to attend Summit, so we had a great group of them at our AUG event to present the award. I think that's another great avenue for these AUG events. Not everybody can make it to the Acumatica Summit in the January, February timeframe. And if you can break out into these AUG events and let them receive their award in front of their local community, I think that's just terrific.
That's really cool. Yeah, local, not as, you don't have to change time zones, even if you might have to drive a little bit to get there. It's not as big of a trip. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And that, I guess, leads us to talk a little bit about this AUG Summit 2022 Southeast. That's the SE at the end, Southeast. We've been doing the AUGs for a while. We started, pre-pandemic, and had plans early on to do a larger event that would be in the fall timeframe and give users that are in the region an opportunity to go and experience some of what a summit might be, a conference, an expo with ISVs, along with some training sessions. So we started to work, and when I say we, I mean I started to work on a plan for what this would look like. And so, we're going to have, an educational conference. We'll do a sneak peek of 22 R2. I mean, why not? Let's see what's coming. We'll have some awareness training sessions. I'm hoping I'll have 3 of those within the conference. For me, awareness training.
What do you mean by awareness? Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of content that can be covered. And I think it's hard to go in depth until you make people aware of it. So awareness training is about showing how it can be applied, how it can be put together, and how it can be applied. So we'll do 3 one-hour sessions talking about various topics that are really geared towards making the user more aware of how to use the system. Things like personalizing your workspace and managing your profile. It doesn't seem like a complicated topic, but there's a lot in there that they could really benefit from. I mean, if this is where you're working from and this is the hub of what you do, then let's get you in it so you know how to utilize it and make it your own. How do you modify a standard report and set up a template and schedule the report and then send it via email? Again, not a big deal, but if we did a quick session on it, it makes you aware not only of the functionality, but kind of how to do it, right? Build a GI, make it a side panel, then deploy it to mobile. Okay? You could probably do that, in 20 minutes, right? But if you build a GI, make it a dashboard, then use the dashboard and a GI as a side panel, and then deploy it to mobile. Okay, so then you start to mix it up. Now you start to see people in the audience hopefully go, wow, mind expands. I didn't even think of doing that. I could do this with that, and this person's been asking me for these things. I mean, how do you handle KPIs on the mobile? I mean, all of these things, just on and on. I mean, simple things that aren't necessarily so simple, but we can expose people to. A little bit more on bank feeds, maybe on AP document recognition and some of the ways to do processing. It's really all about how to automate, how to be efficient, how to make more out of your system with less bodies, right?
I like the word awareness for that. I think that's a great description of it. I was just talking to someone recently about, I was considering management consultants. Management consultants charge a lot more than we do. And when you think about what's their tech, what's the tech of their output? I mean, it's usually a Word document, an Excel file, a PowerPoint. It's low tech, right? And a lot of times we equate tech with value when actually you can use low tech. Some of that stuff you're describing is low tech, but how do you apply it to the business? What are the use cases? That's where the value is. So I love that, especially in the context of an in-person user group. I'm sold. I love it.
Yeah. Well, we get so focused on saying, yes, we have that feature, check the box. And yep, it's right there. See, there's the document. But then someone looks at it and they're like, well, how do I make this work in everyday life for me? And that's kind of what the user group, in my opinion, is supposed to address, right? That's the gap we're supposed to fill. Right? So we'll also do a customer panel. Everybody loves to hear from the customers. We're looking for 4 to 5 customers, and I've got some messages out to some folks now. They're going to be part of a panel. They'll do some Q&A, talk about how they're utilizing the system. So that'll be helpful. Of course, I mentioned the discussion topics that'll be ongoing in a hybrid mode, and we'll do sneak peeks into it and show here are the discussions going on so that people continue to be aware. And we'll do a live session where we're going to go through some of those discussion topics, maybe pick out some that seem to be a little more heated, if you will, in a positive way, more interaction, right? And then, of course, we've got the expo going on throughout the event. There also will be a developer breakout session that'll be at the expo, at least one, maybe more. I had been talking with some folks at Acumatica that might participate in that, as well as some developer MVPs that might participate. Again, the focus is what I'm hearing is, hey, when I started as a developer, there were like 5 things someone could have told me and saved me 3 months, right? What are those 5 things? What other things can we share? Anybody come across something neat that they didn't know about? Anybody run into an obstacle that they had to work around? How'd you do it? Right? And it's that interaction that I think will help propel lots of different people forward. Okay?
Very cool. Very cool.
Then,
keep going.
Yeah. Days 2 and 3 are training, right?
Well, so that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, this is a multi-day event. Okay.
It is a 3-day
everything
event.
You were talking about was day 1, sort
That's
of a keynote type
That's
of
right.
a day. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I should mention we're going to have cocktails and appetizers, in the evening at the expo. So there'll be plenty of time for everybody to wander around. We'll have a cap on the number of sponsors that we'll have at the expo, but we're definitely looking for the most qualified and top tier ISVs to be there and to support the Acumatica user community. They can reach out to me. It's joel.gress@swktech.com to learn more about those sponsorships. Days 2 and 3 will be training. And of course, we've got the incomparable Tim Rodman doing some training. So we appreciate you for that, Tim. You'll be doing the introduction to generic inquiries and dashboards on day 2, and day 3 is advanced generic inquiries and joins. Now, this is a fee-based training. It's a fee-based event. Okay. Customer passes will be $95. Partner passes will be $495. A full day of training is $850, and we're going to do a series of half-day trainings. It'll be around $425. This is not a money-making scheme. Okay, it cost me roughly around $350 in hard costs per person that attends. Okay, full disclosure, transparency. You go.
I love it.
I know you like it. And of course, there's a whole host of other costs on top of that. And we're, thankful to SWK Technologies for being a pinnacle sponsor, for making this happen, for covering so much that's going on. I mean, they're covering costs for me, for many team members. I mean, they're really making this possible, which is terrific. And I'm hopeful that out of this that we'll have some announcements. I'm pretty sure we will. I'm working on it for some additional AUG chapters across the US that'll be sponsored by SWK.
Other things on the training. So I know I'm doing some generic inquiry training there. You just mentioned that. Are there other paths that you're working on for training as well?
Yeah, I'm looking at some half-day sessions, and I've started conversations with Acumatica about trainers that they might have participate in the event and what offerings they might have. We've looked at things like a half day working with the Acumatica Commerce Connector, working with Acumatica business events, working with Acumatica workflows, right? Acumatica automation, bank feeds, AP document recognition, right? And kind of lumping that together. So the focus of the whole event is about automation and efficiency. How do you get the most out of the system? That's our goal, and I think people will like it. And I'm open to suggestions for additional training classes. And I'm working with some folks at Acumatica as well as internal at SWK to figure out what this might look like and assemble our trainers. Even when we go through and we're going to start doing these awareness sessions, I mean, we're going to have team members that are going to be presenting that. And those are the team members that I'm looking to within SWK to help build these additional AUG locations across the US. So pretty excited for this event in September. And I'm thinking it'll be a kickoff for a lot of AUG activity coming through the rest of the year and into the new year.
Interesting. So, I think this all goes together, but you have to pick a date, which means you have to have a venue, which means you have to have an idea of how many people you're expecting. I'm not sure which one comes first, but maybe as an event planner, how do you arrange those three things? And do you have any one of those three things nailed down yet?
Yeah, well, I have all of those nailed down to some degree, as much as you can. It's these things kind of tend to come together all at once, right? So we're going to be September 12th through the 14th. It'll be at the Westin Buckhead in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. I have allocated room for 175, so 175 folks. But if I get some really good attendance numbers, then I have an opportunity to expand that a bit. And really, the balance comes between the sponsors that show up for the event and help sponsor it, along with the support from Acumatica for some trainers that participate, and the users that sign up for the event. Right?
Yeah, the 350 per person transparent cost that you said there is what your spreadsheet currently says, right? But you change any one of the variables that go into that, and that could wildly swing, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's based on 175 or so attendees. And those are hard costs, and that's not all the costs. There's a whole number of other costs. My time that's gone into it, other team members' time, use of systems for communicating the message, putting the message together, putting all of these sessions together. A huge amount of time goes into that. Collateral around those sessions. Just simple, time in meetings to talk to people about how we're pulling this together, right? So I'm sure that if I were really to try and assess all those numbers and put it into what my average cost per person would be, it would be substantially higher than $350. Okay.
Yeah, but these community events are not big money making things, or maybe to put another way, a guy like Donald Trump would probably not invest in one of these endeavors. But what then motivates someone like you to do all this? I mean, what's in it for you?
What's in it for me? Well, I enjoy it. It's a sharing of knowledge. I mean, how can you not enjoy that? It's an opportunity to get in front of people and hear their stories and share a little bit with them. And maybe I can help someone, and maybe someone can help me along the way. And that's what community is about. I think we just don't have enough community today. It just seems to be missing, or I'm missing the opportunities for community. And so I'm creating this one for myself, which is with the Acumatica community. Because I find just ERP and business systems interesting. They're puzzles, and it's about solving a puzzle. So I guess I could be going to a puzzle conference as well. I don't know.
Yeah, there's almost a part of it. I know it's this way for me, at least. There's a part of it that almost falls into the hobby category of your brain. And and then on the professional side, maybe it's not a big money maker, but you're sharpening your skills that you then go use in the money making side of the business. Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. Although I find that a lot of what I know is coming from the money making side of the business, and then I can bring it to apply within the community itself. Because it's the customers, it's the users that out there in the system that bring the challenges to me that they face every day. And it's an opportunity for me to try and solve that puzzle and figure out how to make that work for them. And when I hear something that works for one, or I figure out a solution for somebody, it's something now that I can share with others and help move them forward. I'm working on a series of blog posts in my spare time that are talking about solutions that we put together for customers, a quasi-light manufacturing scenario, a way to process, credit cards in advance of shipping and to allocate different items to the shipment across multiple sales orders, and just some scenarios that people are facing in the real world and they need to have a way to address it. And with Acumatica, what's great is that it's got the out of the box scenario, but then it's got the ability to customize and make things work a little bit differently. And it's that piece that really makes the system sing for people.
You mentioned blog posts. I wonder if this resonates with you. One thing I'm finding with the user group is I might have like 50 bullet points in my head for blog posts I want to do. There's no way I'm going to get to them all, but you sort of like float a few of those in a user group. And if there's a response, it sort of gives you the gas in the tank to then go do the hard part of writing the blog post. Do you find that to be a similar experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a running list. I probably have 20, not as many as you, but I look at it and sometimes one of them will be in a category and I'll just think to myself, that should be 3 blog posts, not 1. That'll be too much. And you're right. I probably won't get to them all because there are more and more scenarios coming in that I have time to put together. And I think there's some value in doing some videos around some of this as well. So I'm looking at how to create some short videos that cover some of these topics that are just helpful to users. And I'm fortunate that SWK Technologies is affording me the time to do these things, which are, part work, part hobby, I guess. But don't tell my boss.
So you mentioned SWK a few times. So first of all, we should get out of the way. Most people might know you from your dynamic tech services days, but you sold that practice to SWK sometime in 2021. Is that correct?
We merged with SWK on January 1, 2022. So I'm a little over 6 months here. Is that right? We're at the 6-month mark. Yeah.
So it's SWK now. And you also mentioned working on some other chapters. Now, before we get there, if I recall correctly, the event you had in April in Atlanta, the 40 people who came, am I correct that was SWK customers only, or how did that part work out?
That one was SWK customers only. I wanted to move quickly and obviously work within the boundaries of the Acumatica user group and their rule set. And we weren't looking to try and lure other partners' customers in. So we focused on the SWK customers to get a group together to kick off the user group event. And as I mentioned, we had a great time. It was a great event and it led us to, well, there are more people out there that need this. How do we incorporate the rest of the community in a way that's fair and balanced? And the answer to that was to put this event together, to work in collaboration with Acumatica, to work in collaboration with an Acumatica customer, to put this event together and to charge a fee so that we could cover the costs. Because even when I was doing this previously and I had other partners that were involved, it was still me doing the work. So if I'm going to do the work, then I've got to figure out a way that we can have other people participate and help fund it. And that's the reason why the partner pass is $495 as opposed to the customer pass, which is $95. We're asking customers to come and learn, and we're giving them a reasonable price so that they can do that. They can engage in the community and they can collaborate. We're giving them a reasonable price on training, and we're asking partners that want to come on, join us and help support the event and pay a little extra.
So the event in April was SWK customers only, but just to clarify, the one in September, the AUG Summit 2022, is for anyone.
That's correct.
And then the other chapters that you're working with that you mentioned they would potentially be SWK sponsored. Would that be SWK customers only, or would that be for anyone as well?
That would be for anyone as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They'll start to get listed. We've got I guess there's a partner sponsor, a customer sponsor, and then an Acumatica employee. So we're just waiting on an employee assignments, and we should have some announcements, hopefully by the AUG Summit 2022 SE.
Very cool. Now, another question I would ask you, when you were talking about day one of the September summit and you're talking about new features in 2022 R2, I started to think that sounds a lot like an Acumatica Roadshow from a few years ago. Do you have you heard anything about roadshows coming back? I mean, is that potentially going to be happening at the same time because those were also in the fall?
I asked Acumatica if they had any events planned at that time, and what I got was no. Could that change? Sure, that could change. I don't know what they have planned. If they do plan something, that would be a surprise. I think our structure is quite different from a roadshow. I always thought the roadshows were a lot of marketing. We're really trying to talk about education through this conference. And that's why we have these awareness sessions. That's why we're bringing the training into the mix. But of course, we can't fund it all. So, we need people to see the value in it and to make a reasonable contribution to make the event happen.
Yeah, when I attended the road shows here in Columbus, Ohio, I felt that the target audience, from my perspective, was a prospect, someone who was interested in Acumatica. It sounds like your target audience is someone who is a current customer and using Acumatica.
That's the main target, although it is open to prospects that have a partner sponsor. We'll have a different fee structure for those prospects. I think I came to the number of $125 for a prospect as opposed to a customer. We want them to have an opportunity to go and experience the event, to learn about the product and to meet people that are using the solution. I don't want to exclude anyone. And we're trying to create the tiers that allow everybody to participate in a reasonable way. Right? But I think you're right in terms of the road shows. I thought they were focused towards prospects more so than customers. And I also thought that they maybe had a little bit of a swing towards the partners as well. So it was about partners and prospects as opposed to customers. Again, we're all about the customers that are using the system. Prospects are welcome, partners are welcome, other ISVs are welcome. We've got the fee structure in place to accommodate, customers, prospects with a partner sponsor. So you've got to be with a partner, okay, that you're working with, and they've got to say, hey, we're sponsoring them. And then we're going to run all these names for everybody that registers through Acumatica. Acumatica is going to work with us to validate that, yes, they're a partner, yes, they're a customer. And if someone pops up that is, trying to get in there that isn't part of the community, we'll have a conversation with them, right?
And, for those that don't know how this world works, as I understand it, the way it works as a prospect, you've got to be registered with a partner in Acumatica system. And so if you're not, then I could see how it'd sort of be similar to showing up to a real estate open house without having a realtor. It becomes like a feeding frenzy, right? Like everyone's trying to sign you up. And I think you're trying to avoid that. Is that sort of some of the reasons for those rules?
That it is a reason for the rule. I mean, it's about learning. It's about embracing the community that wants to learn. And we don't want to create a scenario where there's a lot of ambulance chasing. Right? So if we can
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, put some rules around it that makes this just a fun, fair event for everyone, then that's what we want to do. And some people are probably going to push back on this scenario, and that's okay. But if you have a different scenario, you are free to go and build out your scenario in wherever you want in this world. And I'm doing the same thing, and I'm doing it in a way that I can have the funds to make it happen and to make it big and to make the community grow. And at the end of the day, if you're going to run the race with me, then great, I'm all for it. It makes it more fun. Let's do it. And I love the stuff that you're doing, Tim. Keep doing it. Keep getting users together. I think as we have these other AUG locations, that there'll be smaller groups of people, 10, 15, 20 people getting together. And that's great. And once a year, we'll have a bigger event and we'll add more into it. Training is an important part. You can have conversations all day long, but if you have 10 people in a room saying, yeah, I have this issue and I'm not sure how to handle it. And I think I could do it in a GI. And everybody else goes, yeah, I have that issue too, but I don't know the answer. That doesn't help you, right? You've got to come to a group that's larger, that has more people, that can have more resources, that can bring those solutions to bear, right? That's what community is all about.
I love it. And I love your point about, what I'll phrase it as potentially different styles. And I feel the same way about it. Some people just ask for what is the overarching community. I mean, look at any type of common interest. You don't necessarily have one organizational structure for a community. You have these different styles, and if you're going to join a certain event, you got to know what the rules are for that event, but you're free to do your own thing in your own area. I think at the end of the day, you're getting people together. And when you get people together, good things happen. You got to have rules around a specific gathering. And so each gathering could have different sets of rules and styles, but you got to respect that. But at the end of the day, you're getting people together. And I think that's a big advantage for whoever shows up and comes to this event. I think you're going to get value out of it just because you're together with other Acumatica users.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yes. Yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be a great event. I'm looking forward to you being there and participating in the conference and the expo. Maybe you'll join in on the developer session. I'm thinking that alone could draw 20 to 40 people.
Yeah, sounds cool. It really sounds like a mini summit, mini Acumatica summit. We'll see. I'm not trying to predict what exactly will happen. Let's get that 175 people in there, and let's make it what we want to make it, right?
Yes.
Respecting the rules that are in place going into it. I like it.
Absolutely. Yes, 175, first come, first serve. Don't be late.
So September 12th through 14th, that's a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at a hotel in Atlanta. Now, what about a landing page? What's the best landing page to get all this information?
Yeah, I'll have right now I have a URL that I'll send to you that is basically the summit announcement blog. I think you've seen that already. It's linked into the AUG recap. Okay. I don't know if I can post this into the chat here for you now, but I'll do that.
No, I've got that. That's the blog article that you have on the SWK blog, right? Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes.
I'll include that.
Yeah, I'll update that with some more content, and we'll put a link to the registration once registration goes live. I've just signed the contract with the hotel here, committed my life to them.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big step.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we'll be putting a registration out there for the conference and expo. You'll have a place where you can also reserve a hotel room at a special rate for this event. There'll be information on all of the local things to do. I think there's something like 50 plus really good restaurants around the area, plenty of shopping. It's a nice, safe area, pleasant area to walk around in the evenings and enjoy. And I expect that we're probably going to have some things build on it. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a sponsor say, hey, Joel, we'd like to do a Sunday night event at the brewery down the road. Okay, great. So some of those will be popping up as we go. Of course, we'll have the 2 training sessions that you're doing. I'll be adding more training sessions as they become available. Right now, I think we've got 3 rooms reserved for training with an option on a 4th and a 5th if those training classes come together and we see the demand for it. Right?
So anyone who might be interested in putting on training in one of those areas or a different area, same thing, just email you at joel.gress@swk.com or
sure,
swktech.com.
SWK Tech, yeah. Send me an email. I'm moving fast, so there's a lot of controls over what I'm letting into the event and who's sponsoring what, just so we make sure that this is happening in a very streamlined manner, right? And I think I've referenced this to you before when we've talked about these AUG events, how they get very complicated when you involve too many folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that to me goes back to the styles point, right? I mean, there's different ways of running an event, and we're not saying that one's better or worse than the other. But when you go to an event, you just need to know what the rules are, what the flavor is for that particular event, right?
Absolutely. And I encourage all different styles of events. Like you had said before, if 3 people get together, over coffee and talk about Acumatica, that's a user group.
That's what I think. Yeah. It's a different flavor, obviously, than 175 people in a hotel in Georgia.
That's right. That's right. Well, Tim, I'm inspired to do this because I hear people need more information. They need more training. They can't get out to other places. They're not going to spend, like you had said before, $200 an hour for someone to show them how to do something. They can come to a user group event for $95, have awareness training. They could spend $850 and have a full day training with you on generic inquiries and dashboards. Do another full day for another $850 and do advanced generic inquiries and joins. Think of the value that brings to their organization. That is a small investment. And it's in a city that's in the same city with the largest airport in the world, making it easy to get to. It's in the center of the Southeast pretty much, meaning people can drive to the event if they choose to drive instead. We're just trying to facilitate.
For those like me who'd be flying in for this, or who are flying in for this, what's the weather like there in Atlanta in September?
In September, that's a good question. Probably should be in the 80s for the most part. It'll be nice.
Still nice and warm. Okay.
Yeah, August is a warm. August we get into the 90s. We start to, taper down as we roll into September. So I would say we'd probably be in the mid 80s in September. Yep. You might wake up to a 60-degree morning and 85 in the afternoon. I think rather pleasant.
So maybe still bring some shorts and some swim trunks for the hotel pool there, maybe, huh?
It's a possibility, yes. It might be it's a little late for me. Once we hit September, it gets a little cool in the water.
Yeah, well, sounds nice. Looking forward to it. And thanks for coming on. And any other details you can think of that we missed?
I'm sure there's a bunch, but I think there's a lot of content in this session that we've had today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I enjoy it. And again, looking forward to seeing you in Atlanta in September.
We'll call this an awareness podcast episode. If you want a deeper dive, there's more information coming. I'll put links to this episode page, augforums.com/episode 87. And for the ongoing updates that you'll be providing, we'll go there to the written format.
Excellent. All right, Tim. Thanks.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of AUGforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening and take care.